You're listening to Beezy Beez Sleep Stories, created for the restless, the curious, and those who find themselves wide awake when the world goes quiet. To listen to more stories like this one, please visit deepbearsleep.com. Tonight's story, The Night Porch. Let's begin. Ellen liked the hour when the neighborhood settled, the time when porch lights flicked on and the world's edges softened. She was 58 now, a half-century of seasons behind her, and some nights her thoughts rustled louder than the wind in the maple out back. On those nights she would make tea, wrap herself in the blue cardigan her sister had knitted long ago, and step onto the porch with a blanket, a notebook, and nothing urgent to do. It was late September. The air had the kind of calm that invited honesty. Somewhere a dog barked once and then remembered sleep. A car passed by without hurry. Ellen watched its red taillights float down the street like two small lanterns on a river. When the quiet returned, she noticed the steady hum of the crickets and the faint, resin-sweet smell of pine. She opened her notebook and wrote the date at the top of a page. She drew a small line underneath it, as if to make a space for what might come. She didn't know what she would write. She often didn't. But something about the page, clean, waiting, ready, made her feel less crowded inside. "I don't know what I need," she wrote, "but I think I need to be shown." She sat back, cupping her tea. The steam kissed her face. A little breeze moved the wind chimes along the porch beam. They answered with a low, friendly sound that felt like a welcome. That was when the thought arrived like a guest, not like a demand. "Hello, Ellen." She blinked and smiled at herself. "Hello, me," she murmured, amused. Maybe this would be one of those nights when she wrote what she needed to hear, and it felt like it came from somewhere wiser than the churn of her thoughts. She had learned not to argue with help, no matter how it came. She set her pen to the page. "Hello, Ellen. I'm here." She looked at the words. They felt warm. They didn't feel like performance. They felt like a seat pulled out at the kitchen table. "Who?" she wrote, the tip of her pen making a tiny dot of ink after the question mark. "The part of you that remembers. The part of you that never left. The voice you ask for when you are tired of carrying it alone. Call me what feels true tonight." Ellen exhaled, a soft laugh caught in the middle. She touched the edge of the page as if to steady herself. "Okay," she wrote. "I'm listening." "Good. Let's sit together a while." A quiet settled between words. She let the porch lights on both sides of the street make their neat crescents on the ground. Somewhere, a screen door creaked, and then there was only the symphony of small nighttime sounds again. "I've been worried," she wrote, "about money, about my son, about the news, about whether I'm doing enough, about whether I've missed something important, some turn I should have taken. You have not missed the turn. The road is not a single lane. Life is a network of paths that all draw you toward the same open field. You can walk into it from many directions." She felt that sentence land like a warm hand on her shoulder. Her eyes prickled. "I always think I should be doing faster. Bigger. Better," she wrote. "Faster is not kinder. Bigger is not wiser. Better is often gentler than you imagine. Tonight, be kind. Be gentle. That is your better." The wind chimes answered again, as if they'd been listening for their part. Ellen watched a moth draw circles around the porch light. The moth looked like a small, soft piece of ash dancing up and down. "How do I be gentle when the world feels loud?" she asked. "Begin small. Feel the chair beneath you. Notice how your palms grow warm around the cup. Hear the crickets. Let your shoulders drop. Tell yourself one kind, true thing." Ellen set down the pen, closed her eyes, and followed the instructions like a child following stepping stones. Chair, cup, crickets, shoulders. Kind, true thing. "I am safe on my porch," she whispered. The words felt honest. Sometimes the smallest truth was the most helpful, like a pin of light in a dark hallway. She found another. "I do not have to fix the whole world tonight." She picked up the pen and wrote both lines, then drew a small star by each. "Yes," the page replied. The maple leaves shifted high above, making a sound like paper rubbed gently together. It reminded her of her father reading the newspaper on Sundays, of the way he'd read headlines out loud with half a grin, as though the world was something to be curious about, not only afraid of. "I wish I could call him," she wrote. Then call him. "But he's gone," she answered in ink, "not from the place that matters." Close your eyes and say what you would say. Then listen. He will answer in the language of feeling. So she did. She closed her eyes and spoke into the place where she kept the memory of his kindness. She told him about the tomatoes ripening late this year, about the church bell being repaired, about the neighbor boy who had brought her mail to the door when it rained. And then she was quiet. "What am I doing?" she thought. But then something happened. It wasn't a sentence in her ear. It was a warmth spreading in her chest, a weight settling into a tender part of her that had been empty all day. She felt a patience that was not hers alone. She knew the patience belonged to the man who taught her how to whistle, and how to check the oil in the car, and how to clap after the fireworks, even when no one else was clapping yet. When she opened her eyes, she found that she had been smiling. She didn't try to capture it with words. "Not everything needs a caption," she wrote. "Some things are whole without one." "Good," the page replied. The knight took another deep breath. In the house, the clock in the hallway chimed the hour, soft, like someone tapping a spoon on the rim of a glass so as not to wake a sleeping child. Ellen pulled the blanket closer. She felt less alone than she had in days. "Tell me what to do," she wrote. "Tell me how to live right. Live true." "That sounds like a slogan," she teased. "What does it mean?" "It means, let your life be a mirror for your deepest knowing, not a billboard for your worst fear. It means, when you are confused, choose the thing that feels like kindness in your bones. It means, put your hand on your heart and ask, what would love say here? Then be brave enough to say it that way." Ellen rested her hand on her heart without meaning to. Sometimes her body answered before her mind did. The warmth of her palm on her chest steadied her. She tried the question quietly inside. What would love say here? Love would say, sleep. Love would say, you're doing better than you think, dear heart. Love would say, the next step is small, and you can take it. She wrote those lines down, slow, like laying stones across a shallow creek. What about the parts of me I don't like, she wrote. What about the times I am bitter or jealous, or I speak sharply, or I hide, or I pick at old scabs just to feel something? Invite them in. Offer them tea. Do not make them kings, but do not banish them to the woods. They live in the house of you, too. They are scared, not evil. Sit them down and ask what they need in plain language. That sounds like a lot of tea, she wrote, a smile tugging at her mouth. Then, buy more tea. There are worse errands. She laughed, and the sound felt good in her throat, like a bird hopping from one branch to another. What if I'm not enough? Ellen wrote, and the pen paused there, as if it had heard a bell. You are not a container measured by ounces. You are not a race that can be won or lost. You are a verb. Living, learning, giving, receiving. Enoughness is not a number. It is a relationship. When you stand as kindness to yourself, you are in the company of enough. She read that twice, then a third time. A verb, she whispered. Okay. The wind had shifted. It brought with it the faintest hint of the river that ran 2 streets over, the cool, mineral smell of water, knowing its path by heart. Ellen pictured the river doing what rivers do, and she thought, I could do what I do, too. Maybe that was all. Tell me about your day, the page said. She did. She told about the crowded grocery store, the jar of peaches that slipped and broke with a gold splash on the floor, her quick apology, the broom and dustpan in the hands of a kind teenager wearing a name tag that read M. She told about the woman in line who said, Don't worry, it happens, and placed 2 peaches in Ellen's cart with a little wink, as if to seal the grace with humor. She told about the woman at the pharmacy who called her Han without sounding fake, about the way the late sun laid itself across the kitchen table like a soft scarf, about the robin that hopped twice and then took flight from the fence post as if it had a small appointment with the air. When she finished, the page answered, You are paying attention. When you pay attention, the world pays you back in details, and details are where love leaves its notes. Ellen nodded, though she was alone. Sometimes I feel like I need permission to slow down enough to notice that, she wrote. Consider this permission. Framed, signed, dated. She could almost see it, a little paper on the wall. Permission to pay attention, to be shown whenever old Hurry insisted on proof. A car door closed somewhere down the block, and 2 voices drifted up. Soft, nothing she could make out, just the shape of gentle talk. A porch light blinked off, then on again, like an eye in a storybook owl. The world did not feel big and wild in that moment. It felt like a neighborhood with sweaters and dishwashers and watering cans. I get scared at night, she wrote, that I am running out of time, that I don't have enough years to become who I meant to be. You are becoming who you meant to be each time you choose love over fear, honesty over performance, presence over panic. This becoming does not keep score the way shame keeps score. It counts by moments of return. There is always time to return. How do I return when I've wandered? She asked. Say, I'm here. Feel your feet. Feel the breath. Drop your shoulders. Place your palm to your heart. Ask one simple question. What is the kindest next step? Then take that step. Ellen did it, right there on the porch, even though she was not lost, not really. I'm here, she said. She felt her feet in their soft socks, her breath, her shoulders loosening, her hand on her heart. Kindest next step. Stay, her body answered. Stay and rest. She wrote those words. She drew a small, lopsided heart next to them. Tell me about your son, the page said. She did. She told about his restless months, about the job he wasn't sure he wanted, about the move he might make, about the quiet pride she carried like a coin in her pocket every time she saw him do something thoughtful. She told about his stubbornness that was really his bravery in an awkward outfit. She told about the silence between them sometimes, the way it made her invent trouble where there was none because she was a mother, and mothers, she suspected, were given extra imagination just for that. "Trust the goodness you placed in him," the page replied. "Trust that your love is an inheritance he cannot misplace, even when he forgets the exact pocket he put it in." "I don't always know what to say," she wrote. "Then say less, but say true. I love you. I'm here. You don't have to know everything today. I trust your heart. Simple words carry far." She breathed easier. She circled those lines like you might circle a time on a calendar you mean to keep. The tea had gone warm. She drank anyway. The wind chimes were quiet now, at rest. The porch had deepened into that particular blue you only get between night and morning, the kind of blue that feels like velvet and old songs. "Sometimes I talk to God," Ellen wrote, and then paused, as if listening to the sentence echo in the little room of the page. "You are doing it now," the page answered. "Am I?" She smiled. "Am I allowed to call this God? Call this what gives you courage to be kinder. Call this what helps you lay down the heavy. Call this what you call the friend who always answers. The name matters less than the listening." "So you're saying God is not picky," she wrote. "Love is not picky. Love is particular, specific in its care, detailed in its attention, but it is not picky. Love will use any door you open." Ellen's eyes stung again in that clean way that crying sometimes feels like washing. She dabbed the corners with the cuff of her cardigan. "I want to be a door," she wrote, and then shook her head at her own earnestness and left it there anyway. "You are." The maple leaves whispered again. A cat padded along the top of a fence and leapt down without sound. Ellen could hear her own breath in the hush. "Tell me something to carry," she wrote. "Something to fold into my pocket for tomorrow. Carry this. You are not behind. Life is not a bus you missed. You are here, and here is where the next kind thing can happen. Carry this. When in doubt, offer warmth. It is rarely the wrong size. Carry this. Every morning is mercy. Every night is mercy. You live inside a mercy that does not run out." She read the words aloud, slow, so that they could soak into her like lotion into dry hands. Not behind. Offer warmth. Mercy that does not run out. Her shoulders, which had been wearing a little armor she didn't notice, unclasped and set the armor down. "Tell me about rest," she wrote, and the pen moved more easily now, the question not a demand but a quiet curiosity. Rest is not a reward for having finished everything. Rest is a partner that helps you do the next thing well. Rest is a soft teacher. It says, "Come back to the body that knows." It says, "Lay your head down and be held by the same night that holds oceans and owls and the breath of babies." Ellen's chin trembled once, a small tremor that told the truth about how tired she was. She yawned in that way that makes your eyes water and your jaw click a little. "There," the page said, "your body is answering." "I don't want to forget this," she wrote, tapping the page with the tip of her finger. "You won't. Your cells heard it. But write a few words to find your way back when the day gets loud." She did. She wrote, "Kindest next step," and "Not behind," and "Offer warmth." And then she drew a tiny porch, 4 lines and a little triangle for a roof, a stick figure sitting with a cup. She added a glow of dots around it to show the safe circle the light made. "Sometimes," she wrote, "I worry that I'm only pretending at hope." Hope is often quiet at first. It doesn't always sing on key. It shows up anyway. Pretending at hope is practice. Practice becomes muscle. Muscle becomes memory. Memory becomes a way of walking. That made her chuckle. She liked the idea of hope as a beginner at a piano, missing notes and giggling, but still learning the song. "Do you want a blessing for the night?" the page asked. She did. She closed her eyes and rested her hand on the notebook. "Then here is one. May your breath be your lighthouse. May your bones remember they are made of the same stuff as mountains, not to be hard, but to hold. May your thoughts be like birds that can land without fear and fly again when it is time. May your sleep be a gentle shore where the waves arrive and leave without hurry. May you wake tomorrow with one simple kindness already in your pocket, ready to give." Ellen exhaled a long, soft breath she hadn't noticed she was holding. She kissed her fingers and touched the page, an old habit she'd picked up from her grandmother, who blessed recipes and letters the same way. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she wrote, already knowing the answer. "Yes," the page said. "I am the voice that speaks when you make a little space. I am as close as your next slow breath." "Then good night," she wrote, and took a moment to feel how good that felt. "Good night, Ellen. You are loved." She closed the notebook and set it on the small table by the porch chair. She stood and stretched, feeling the comfort of her body, the miracle that it had carried her across so many days, the promise that it would carry her into another. As she reached for the porch light, she paused and looked once more at the sleeping street. The world was not solved. It did not have to be. It only had to be met with the gentleness she had in her, which was more than she gave herself credit for. She switched off the light. The night gathered her in without argument. Inside, the house greeted her with that familiar hush, a hush that felt like trust. In bed, with the blanket drawn up and the window cracked just enough to hear the crickets, she placed a hand on her heart one last time. "Kindest next step," she whispered. "Okay." Ellen closed her eyes. The room breathed. The night porch remained behind her like a small chapel in the dark, and the voice she had written with was not gone. It was simply resting with her, like a friend who does not leave just because the lamp does. And the world, without hurrying her, turned gently toward morning. To be continued.